Hey everyone, I know it's been a long time, but Daddy's podcast is starting right now.
Welcome back to the Lessons for Success show. I'm your host, Adam Wardlaw, a middle school science teacher and a high school football coach here in the state of South Carolina. I want to thank the listeners who hail from 17 different states here in America to our listeners outside the USA from Canada and the United Kingdom. Hopefully you've gained some valuable insight from our guests so far on the show. Remember that new episodes come out every Sunday and the show is available everywhere where podcasts can be found. Keep up with the show on social media at L4S Show or use the hashtag L4S Show. Again, that's the number 4. You can also send messages into the show by downloading the Anchor app. Send in any questions or comments related to the show so that it can be featured in future episodes of the podcast.
Daddy, who's the guest on your podcast this week?
Adam Welcome has been a teacher, principal, director of innovation for a district with 35,000 students and enjoys pushing the envelope to always do what's best for kids. Adam was Principal of the Year for his region, a 20 to watch for the National School Board Association, guest blogger for EdWeek, NAESP magazine, and many other publications. Adam also consults and works with many education companies as a way to improve their product for others. Adam is passionate about technology integration with all educators and a huge advocate of social media and connecting with other educators from across the country. Adam also loves to run and has completed 25 marathons. You can follow Adam on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Adam Welcome. Enjoy.
Yeah, my name's Adam Welcome, and I've been a teacher and a vice principal and a principal and also a director of innovation for a large school district. And I would say that my origin story really starts with my family. My dad was a second grade teacher for 35 years in the inner cities of the Bay Area, and I just grew up in his classroom and seeing him interact with kids and building their self-confidence and making it all about the kids and not making it about the students. And I think making it about the kids but not the adults. I think a lot of people put too much focus on the adults in schools, and we have to remember why we are where we are and why we're doing what we're doing. It's because of kids. And I would say really he was my mentor for teaching, and he's passed away now, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about how he used to treat his students and just doing what's best for the kids. And that's always what I've tried to do every single day as an educator. And now I just travel the country and work with school districts and write, and just hoping that same message comes through. So that's kind of where it all started.
You go all over the place and you see all these different situations and scenarios and communities that are in different schools. And are there any kind of common themes that you see across these different places you go for what works when you're talking about trying to connect to young people or just to try to improve schools?
Yeah, so I would say that everybody has the same problems. Your problems in suburban USA or rural USA are the same problems as somebody else has somewhere else. So I would just say, remember that what you're going through, somebody else is too. And they've found a solution to whatever problem they're dealing with. And I really think when the best places and the best educators that have the best energy are when you focus on the kids 100%, and yes, our schools need adults, and we need adults and great teachers more than ever. But when the mission statement is kid focused, and when every decision that a school makes is kid focused, then you're going to be a kid focused school. And I think that's just so important to kind of think about and remember, because if the decisions are only positive for the adults and maybe positive for the kids, then, I think that as an organization, they got some work to do, because, our schools exist for kids. They don't exist so we can just have jobs as adults. So I would say those are some themes that I see in schools that I've worked in, but also schools that I work with now. So make it about the kids. Team kid, every day, all day.
I'm working on my master's right now in administration. And one of the things that I've learned, from my mentor principal and just people who are kind of in administration, is that, some of the hardest people to work with are the adults in the building. As much as the adults think it's the kids that are the root of kind of some of the issues, it's really, maybe inconsistency between staff or disagreements among staff. What are kind of some ways that you've been able to help staffs get on board in order to, create that common vision and kind of move together towards a common goal?
To make sure that nobody has an ego in the building. There's a book, actually, Ego is the Enemy. And I think that's just such an important thing to think about, and to, do I have an ego? Am I making a decision, or am I not making a decision because I may have an ego? And yeah, it's not about us. And I'll say it again, it's not about us, it's about the kids. And when the adults start focusing on them and what they're not getting, or whatever it may be, then it is going to be, it's about egos. And I think that's just something important to think about. And, that's something that people need to look inside themselves for, to see, like, is what I'm doing here the best for kids, or can I make a change in how I'm approaching the situation? So I think that people need to remember their why, and why they are an educator, and why they chose this profession, and why they continue to work in schools.
So, when you come into a school, and, I'm not sure kind of what the layout is when you come into a new school, but what's kind of that first step that you're doing? And obviously just kind of getting the staff to reflect on their purpose for being in a school building or being in a certain profession. But what's kind of the rest of that plan, where after you've kind of maybe evaluated who's there, and maybe the people that you really need to focus on more than others, what's that whole process like?
I always say that I think visibility is the number one thing that we can have for all people, not just for like leadership, because I think it's important that, the more you're visible, the more you're building relationships. The more you're visible, the more you're connecting with students. And, the more you're visible, where your school is, because you can't know where you need to go unless you know where you are. And I would say I see a lot of schools and leaders and educators making plans for what they want to do. And a lot of times those plans don't reflect or coincide with where they currently are. And I think a theme for that is this, the district office building PowerPoint presentations and starting committees and making decisions that are going to impact the schools. And they haven't even really spent a lot of time at the school. And, people listening, and you know what I'm talking about. Like, how do you know what we need? And you're never here, like actually here, not just walking through for a dog and pony show, but spending lots of time in classrooms, talking to students, talking to teachers, seeing kind of what people are going through. And then that informs your decision. And that's the visibility piece, because yes, curriculum is uber important, but you can't know where you need to go and what you need to do. I really believe that, unless you know where you are, and you can't know where you are unless you're visible.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned visibility, because it's something that I kind of learned here in the last couple of years, that just being around, maybe if there's a group of kids in a class that's maybe a little disruptive or whatever the case is, just being around them and in a certain proximity to them can help out. And then on a bigger level, if you're trying to make sure that there's good instruction going on around the building, we've got instructional coaches and great administration that's always coming in and out of rooms. And then even on a larger scale, our superintendent, and I'm in a small school district, but he knows just about every faculty member in the district's name. And I just think that's great that that visibility he has. But I really think that can be stretched to not just education, but in any kind of profession.
Oh, life.
Yeah, I mean, just
And when
just
people
being,
know that you care about them and they know that you know their name, they're going to work harder for you. Period. End of story. Because when those visibility and that culture and those relationships are strong, people want to belong to something. That's why people join fraternities and sororities and gangs and clubs and book groups, because they want to belong to something. So what makes people want to belong to your group, which is your school? And it's building all those things that we're talking about. So if you want to go farther, faster, deeper, and do bigger things, you're visible and you build that culture, and you take people along with you. And I think that, to me, is just really that is the best way to kind of move forward on so many different levels.
Well, and that question you just kind of asked there, that what makes people want to be a part of this? I feel like that's a question that if everybody or any kind of organization would just ask themselves before they created any kind of initiative or plan or schedule or whatever, if they just ask themselves that question, I feel like just that, just being aware of that will help them, instill a lot of things that are going to cause people to gravitate towards them.
Yep.
And so I guess I want to kind of jump onto that. And what are some things that you feel like need to be there? Maybe some things from the different areas you've been that are kind of common that cause people to want to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, energy is a huge thing. People gravitate towards energy, and I mean, my son, who is 6 now, played some little like soccer group years ago, and I can remember the coach. Okay, kids, come on over. Let's play soccer. All right, everybody get a ball. And it didn't pump the kids up. And I could look around. They just didn't want to, and the other opposite would be like, all right, what's up, soccer players? Who's ready to have fun today? We're going to learn. We're going to play. We're going to sweat. And we're going to make you a better soccer player. It's the energy. It's like people knowing that you actually want to be there. And heck, if you don't like kids and you're not excited to be there, then, find something else to do. And there are people out there that I think need to look inside themselves and say, I got into this for a reason, but am I still passionate about kids? Am I still passionate about educating? So that passion and energy is number one, because that's going to bring people to your door and get people to be excited about what they need to learn about. So I think, just that passion and energy is kind of it, and everything else falls in place. Having people that are highly qualified and care about kids and focus on the kids is obvious, but really just that energy and passion, it gets people excited to be at school. It gets people to be excited about learning, and for parents to volunteer, and for parents to support at home, and for the community to vote on parcel taxes and bond measures, and to support the schools. It's not just people that are at the school. It's really a community thing, if you kind of look at it and think about it.
If there's any kind of organization or school or team out there that does feel like energy is the problem, are there any kind of specific things that you usually ask them to do in order to try to resolve that or try to inspire growth there?
Yeah. Remember why you became a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't get excited to be at school, then I think you need to find something else to do. Or if you're frustrated with the kids because of whatever, then you need to look inside yourself and see, why am I here? Should I still become a teacher? Because to me, what other choice do you have? If you work in a loan office processing paperwork for kids, for loans, then you know what? You don't need to have a ton of energy to do that. But when you have the ability and you have and you do work with kids, then what choice do you have? You get to work out, you get to hang out with kids, and you get to work with kids, and that's it. Period. End of story. So I don't see what other choice people have. And if you've lost that spark, then you know what? Get together with your principal, get together with your culture group at your school, and see how you can improve that. Because if you're not enjoying your work and you're not coming to school pumped up, then it's a culture issue, or you have to look inside yourself and see what you can do to improve that.
That's awesome. Adam, I appreciate your time that you've given me this afternoon. And, one thing I try to end the interviews on is kind of particular keys, and these are usually, or I won't say usually, there's sometimes things that we've already discussed, or there may be something that we hadn't kind of got to, but what do you feel like is a key to success for, the students out there listening, the teachers out there listening, and just everybody else? What are some things you value in order to help them be more successful?
Yeah, I think there's a big problem in education with TMI, too many initiatives. We try to do too many dang things, and what ends up happening is we don't do anything really well. We do 10 to 15 things with mediocrity when we should be doing 3 to 5 things really well. So I would say my challenge to anybody listening is get everything that you do into a tiny house. Because you know what, you can't get, if you have a 10,000 square foot house, you're going to get a lot of things in there, and you're going to do things that you shouldn't be doing because they're not good for kids. But if you only take 3 to 5, because that's all you can fit into a tiny house, you're going to focus on those things. You're going to go deep with those things. You're going to build relationships with those things, and hopefully you're going to do them really well. So I would say those 3 to 5 things need to be student focused. They need to be kid focused. They need to be relevant, so they can get our kids ready for the world that they live in, not the world that we lived in, that we grew up in. Because as we all know, it's a different world than it was 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. It's called the internet, and it's changed everything on our planet. So 3 to 5 things really well, focus on those. If one's not doing well, drop it off and add one more. But if you got 10 to 15, you can't do them. You can't go deep. You can't focus on them. You can't have beneficial conversations about all of them because we just don't have enough time in the day with parent meetings and student meetings and everything else to focus on those 10 to 15 things. So 3 to 5 really big rocks, do those and see what happens.
Adam, thank you so much for joining me. If anybody's out there that's listening wanted to keep up with you or get in touch with you, is there a particular outlet to kind of reach out to you, whether it's email or social media or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm all over the internet. So just Mr. Adam Welcome at Twitter, Instagram, mradamwelcome.com. Just Google my name and you'll find me. So, hey man, thanks for having me. Keep up the good work and do what's best for kids.
Daddy, I'm learning so much from this podcast.
I learned a ton from Adam Welcome this week about the importance of visibility. Let's review this lesson for success. Adam shared that by being visible to others in your setting, you are likely also forming relationships with others in your surroundings. Relationships are what drive the majority of environments. By focusing on the development of a rapport with your teammates, coworkers, or mentees, you will likely have greater success in the long run. Being visible is also necessary for the achievement of goals for your group. By constantly being visible in your working environment, you can likely keep everyone on board with the focus of the group. Interact with the show on Twitter and Instagram at L4S Show. That's the number 4. You can mention us or you can use the hashtag L4S Show. Again, that's the number 4. Episodes will also be placed on YouTube channel Lessons for Success Show. And now you can download the Anchor app in order to send messages directly into the show. These questions and messages can be featured on future episodes, so go ahead and download the Anchor app today. All of the episodes are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or anywhere else where podcasts can be found. So be sure to like, subscribe, and rate. Thank you for listening to Lessons for Success.
That's the end of our show. Thank you for listening.